Hi everybody, Nathan Ronen, CFA here. Hope everything's going well. Today's topic, what I'd like to speak to you about for a few moments is this whole concept of ghosting. But before I get into it, if you like what you're listening to and you'd like to know more, you'd like to be continuously updated with more of my conversations, please feel free to press the subscribe button now and the notification so that we can make you aware when we post them. Okay. One of the topics that I think is somewhat kind of coming up a lot is the idea of ghosting. And sort of let me explain what ghosting is very quickly. Ghosting can occur in a variety of settings. Okay, but ghosting basically is, many cases, having contact or conversation with a person and it's ongoing, and then suddenly out of nowhere, with no understanding why, it stops. And you start to think that there's something wrong with you. They're not communicating. They're not answering you back. They have just basically disappeared. They've ghosted you. This can happen in a variety of settings. This can happen with college application processes. This can happen in social situations with dating. Okay. It could also happen with employment opportunities when you interview for a job. It can happen with exam results. It can happen many times when you're just calling people and you leave a message and they just don't call you back, a landscaper, or are they really ghosting you? Are they trying to hurt you? I realize that ghosting is a sensitive topic, and I'm going to start out by saying this. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a know-it-all on the topic. I'm just discussing my own impressions of it as it applies to the employment world and getting a job. Okay? And that's where I'm going to limit this discussion to. So, ghosting is kind of a thing that I think, whether it be in any type of setting, is not appropriate. It can be perceived as rude. It's wrong. It's impolite, and it's not very professional. No doubt about it, and I totally agree with you. But here's the thing. A lot of times you will go on interviews and you'll meet with company people and the conversation is going to flow and it's going to go well and you think you got the job, and you meet with one person and another person and a third person, and then they might even ask you to come back and visit again and meet with other people. All good signs that you're about to get this great job, whether it be at Goldman Sachs or Merrill Lynch or Chase or whatever the entity is, whatever the financial institution is, or whatever the company is. And then all of a sudden, after you go through these rounds with them, it suddenly becomes silent or quiet. And you start to get nervous because you thought that they were just going to give you a call very soon and offer you the job and say, hey, we want you, come on board. What do you think? And here's the salary. And here's the bonus potential. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Suddenly it just goes quiet. And that makes people very nervous because they feel like they've spent a lot of time. And even if the company doesn't want them or isn't hiring them, at least have the decency to say so, or tell me what I did wrong, or give me some feedback so that I know what not to do wrong the next time on another interview. And it just doesn't come. And you decide to give the company a few days or a week, you send an email or you call, they don't answer, they don't return your phone call, they don't return your email, and that gets you even more frazzled. Now you think that they don't like you and you start to spiral. Okay. Ghosting, as I said just a few moments ago, is not appropriate. Yes, I agree with you. The company should call you back and they should say, hey, we hired somebody else, or thank you very much for coming in. But they very much well know that in today's world, people are ultra sensitive. I'm not saying that you're ultra sensitive. Generally, people are very ultra sensitive, and it puts a potential conflict out of place by ghosting you. In other words, by not contacting you, by not telling you you did this wrong or that wrong, or they hired this person or they hired that person, or you didn't fit this mold, or they're avoiding the conflict. They're avoiding the further conversation, and they're avoiding any potential argument that could ensue with you asking them more questions. Also, what the company is doing from a strategic standpoint, and this is very important, is they're also not closing the door. By not answering your emails, by not telling you what you did wrong, by not telling you what you could have done better, they're actually putting themselves in a position of strength vis-a-vis the candidate by saying, hey, we're not answering this because you know what? Maybe down the road in 2 months, we might want to come back to this guy. In other words, they liked you. They really did like you and they would hire you, but there was somebody possibly better or somebody first choice, but they want to reserve the the ability to come back to you at a later point in time and possibly give you that position. So they don't want to close the door right now and say, hey, this is what you didn't do well compared to the person that got the job. They just leave it, blank, and then they reserve the right to come back to you. And if you want to take the job at a certain point in time later on, you can. And all of a sudden your feelings are not hurt anymore. And they also got you agree, and then you get the job. So that can also be a possibility. It doesn't have to happen, but it could be a possibility, but it leaves the door open for the firm. So think of it that way rather than just, hey, they don't like me and they're being rude to me. Now, I'll just tell you that in the CFA world where I work, and I've been teaching for the last 26 years, there's a different form of ghosting, and that is that when you take the exam, other than getting a pass or fail, answer, you don't get any kind of insight into why you failed, why you passed, which questions you got wrong, which questions you got right. Yes, the CFA Institute gives you a little bit of an analysis, how you did in each of the topics vis-a-vis other candidates, but it's really not that informative. And if you tried to call the CFA Institute and say, I want to discuss my scores, or I want to discuss what I got right or what I got wrong, I think I really did well, you would probably also get crickets. I don't think that they would be so rude as to not talk to you, but they'll have somebody like a gatekeeper basically push you off or send you an email saying there's no discussion on the exam. Again, you might get that email or you might just get totally ignored. But since 1998, I believe it is, the CFA Institute has not released their level 1 exams. Since 2005, they have not released their level 2 exams. And since 2017, they haven't released their level 3 exams. Again, why? Because they don't want to get into all of this altercation with potential candidates who might think that they got the answer correct and have to substantiate it and spend a lot of resources trying to convince you that you actually did fail or didn't pass or questioning their exam. So they avoid all of that. And again, if you try to send in all of the reasons why, asking them what you got right and what you got wrong, you might not get any response. Again, they might be ghosting you even though you paid for the exam and took their exam. So just keep this in mind. Ghosting is everywhere, and you should just get used to it. It's a hard thing to say. It's not nice. And again, as I said before, it's impolite. It seems a little bit cold and rude, but sometimes companies have to do that. Entities have to do that. And you know what? Sometimes you might even actually have to do that to people. And it's not the best of all worlds, but people learn how to deal with it and they just realize there's no interest or no answer. So I hope that helps a little bit. Even if you disagree with me, please accept that this is just my opinion, and you can always have your own opinion, and I respect that as well. Thank you very much for listening, and good luck.